Hello, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Allen, and welcome back to the Disasterpiece podcast. I am joined by,
Hello, my name is Stephanie.
we did not rehearse that. Um,
No.
but I am joined by Stephanie, who is a actress in the reality games series. They are some games that you can play on your phone that are just absolutely incredible. So before we get into like just talking about horror movies, how did you get started with reality games?
So I definitely started out as a fan by all means, playing I think a lot of people started off with Duskwood. That's where I started
Hmm.
off with that type of game anyway. Led me to reality games. After being encouraged by a couple good friends who were already in the game, I kind of auditioned. Once I got the role of Ina in Orphans, I was just like a big fan. And they kind of offered me the role of running the social media. And now I started doing testing and editing the games as well, which has been a lot of fun. And it
Hmm.
just kind of opened the door to a bunch of different things. So, and then coming back for Argus as well.
Hmm. Which Argus
Yeah,
is
it's
still
def
like those episodes are coming out like as we speak.
yes. Yeah, actually, we are going to be starting to test episode 4 very quickly there, I think this week actually. So we're at
Hmm.
65% done now. So we should be within the next, hopefully the next month and a half, the new episode should be out.
Amazing. It's really cool how quickly that this seems to come together. I mean, it's what, a couple months per episode?
Roughly, we aim for about 3 months per episode, and you got to think like
Hmm.
it's a really small team on the English side, like
Yeah.
only a handful of us compared to the German side. So, we have like a lot of people who hide in the shadows. Like one person I really want to give a shout out to is our like the English manager side for Mel. Her name is Mel, and she is just
Hmm.
phenomenal. Like she does the work of like 10 people, and like a lot of the magic that you see and enjoy in the reality games definitely comes from a lot of her blood, sweat, and tears. I know that for sure.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah.
compared to the German side, we are so much smaller. So I like to hear that we have a quick rollout for our episodes because some games
Hmm.
are not that quick, definitely, but we
Yeah.
aim for about 3 months.
I think we're still waiting on Moonveil episode two. I'm in the minority that doesn't completely despise episode one. I need to see
Oh,
more,
yeah,
you know.
I'm gonna try to keep an open mind with it. I think that they just
Hmm.
had such big footsteps to fill with Duskwood, which was
Yeah.
just phenomenal. Like it was amazing. I do not like the overuse of AI with it. It just
Yeah.
like the I wasn't as connected to Duskwood as I felt with Moonveil, but
Hmm.
I'm trying to be optimistic with that one.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Duskwood was almost revolutionary. I mean,
Yeah.
it really started with that, and now, it's spawned to where other game developers are making similar games, reality games, of course, right now being one of the bigger ones. Um,
Mhm.
so kind of going back to Argus, tell us a little bit about your role in Argus and, uh, you know, a brief recap of the episodes that we've already got.
Well, so right now we're up to episode 4. We have our group of Cinnamombies, which is a group of friends who are horror lovers, and they all kind of are brought together by their love of horror. And unfortunately, they have the death of a friend, which your main character is contacted by. So you kind of get to go down the path of discovering Argus and whether or not it's that urban legend. It's
Hmm.
really hard for me not to discuss because I do know a bit more, so I'm trying to figure out where
Hmm.
the episode ended and where the next episode. So it's really hard for me not to
Hmm.
give spoilers. That's definitely the
Hmm.
trick of that. But yeah, so like, I think um Argus, we've seen a lot of upgrades in the production value, definitely with
Hmm.
a lot of the background scenes, a lot of the scenery. And that's, I think, the biggest part for me is just to see the growth and development from each game because, I've played my first game with the sign and then moving to the healing. And you really do
Mhm.
notice like the production value has grown drastically
Oh
from
yeah.
each game. And I think that's like the most exciting part for me is just to see the growth of the company from then to there.
Mhm.
And it's really a short amount of time that they've grown as well as they have. In 5 years, they've
Mhm.
hit 10 million downloads across all
Yeah.
the games. So I'm just excited to see where the development's going to go. I mean, with Argus, I think this is like their best one yet so far.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And the fact that we can say that after only three released episodes is it's amazing, like and you're absolutely right. Like, I started with the sign. I think that's kind of the first one that like got bigger.
Yeah.
And once I finished that, I kind of backtracked, played the previous games,
Hmm.
and that jump in production quality has been evident with each
Hmm.
game, and Argus has just blown my mind. Like that, even just that opening graphic, it looks like that eyeball is just popping right out of your phone screen. It's like a little creepy. Um,
Yeah. Oh, definitely. And I think that's definitely like the most exciting part to watch is like just to watch the
mhm.
growth of it.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to like, how the film community here in Indiana works,
Hmm.
because most of the productions here are smaller like that. You have maybe three people that run everything, three or
Yep.
four people that run everything. Whenever I started out, it was just me and my buddy Matthew, literally
Yeah.
doing everything. So I love to see that in in the game developing world too, because that's always something that has really intrigued me. I have,
Mhm.
I feel like I wanted to be in a game before I wanted to be an actor,
Yeah.
and I've always been curious to hear about that process. Um, so episode
I
four
didn't.
is. Mhm.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, episode four is what's in the works now, and this is six episodes, correct? Or is it five?
So there is 5 episodes of Argus, but if you
Hmm.
are a VIP or a premium subscriber, which just kind of gets you extra content, you get access to
Hmm.
all the actors' medias, access to the authors chat, which is always hilarious. The authors have
Hmm.
a amazing sense of humor. And so if you are a subscriber to that, which is a huge, amazing way to just help out small companies like that, you will get a
Hmm.
bonus sixth episode, which I'm not going to say too much, but it does kind of vary or stray away from the Argus plotline, but
Hmm.
it is kind of like special bonus. So there will be an episode, a special sixth episode for VIP subscribers.
Hmm. And I will
Yeah.
say too, for anybody who is curious about getting into the reality games, I get the VIP for every game that I play from them, and it is so worth it.
Oh,
Um,
absolutely.
it's like I'm wanting to say it's like 30 or $40 or something like that. And
Yeah.
some people might say, "Oh, that's a lot." It's for this, it's not. Like you genuinely do get your money's worth, and um, it's really cool, and it's a great way to support the developers as well and help them continue to put out these games.
Oh, absolutely. Like they're always free to play. They will always be free to play, which is
Hmm.
wonderful. And like I said, it doesn't affect the storyline by any means, but you just get extra content, which is always
Yeah,
fun to see. A little bit of behind the scenes. And plus everyone's favorite is you get to skip the mini games.
yeah.
So there's mixed reviews. I get some people absolutely love those mini games. But most people I get a lot of negative comments about those ones. So if you want to skip
Hmm.
them, there is a way out.
The only game that the mini games I wasn't a fan of, and it's not because they were bad, it's just because they were hard, was Duskwood.
Yep. Oh
Those,
yeah.
oh,
I still have nightmares about those mini games.
oh Lord. I can't remember which episode it was of Duskwood. I'm wanting to say it was 6 or 7. There was one game I had gotten to where like that was the last one I had to complete to continue the story. And it took
Yeah.
me, and this is a little embarrassing for me because I enjoy those many games to an extent and I'm good at them. That one took me 2 weeks to get through. I was like, what is going on? So
Yeah.
I think that that's one thing that is very appreciated with reality games is the fact that you can skip whenever you do the VIP.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely. I know it's cost quite a few people a lot of their sanity.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So, kind of going forward with acting a little bit, what are some of your goals for the future?
So acting is something I didn't really realize I wanted to do. I grew up in the theater 100%, like
Hmm.
growing up in dinner theater, but always behind the scenes, building the sets, doing the lighting, costumes, things like that. So it wasn't really until, I got into RG games and started doing that. But I really enjoy voice acting, and doing a lot of the
Hmm.
audio and stuff like that. And so I really want to kind of progress, like learning a little bit more of the tech side. That's where I struggle is the
Hmm.
anything technology. I'm still learning. So I think from there on, it's just pretty much kind of focusing on learning the art of voice acting and moving outside of the RG bubble.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not huge into the tech side. I've never been tech savvy.
Yeah.
Never. Honestly, if it wasn't for film, I don't know if I would have Facebook even. That is how untech savvy I am. But yeah, so thinking about some roles that you might be looking for, what are some roles that you would like to do?
So my biggest goal, like I think like if I was talking like the ultimate top goal for acting would be to get murdered off by Chucky. That's like my
Yeah.
ultimate goal is to like be in a Don Mancini movie and get murdered brutally by Chucky. So I think I have been such a horror fan my whole life is like I
Hmm.
love those cheesy death scenes that are just, brutal but terrible, but just in an awesome, wonderful way. So
Hmm.
I think the morbid part of my twisted little heart is like I would love to be killed off in a horror movie.
Hmm. Shockingly, I have not yet been killed in a horror movie, at least not one that's been released. Um, but being in those scenes is so fun. It
Yeah.
it really it kind of whenever you're just getting into it, which it was my first role that I did was as a serial killer.
Mhm.
It really challenges you and it teaches you. It teaches you a lot to,
Yeah.
have that communication with crew and your scene partner, especially, um, making sure that they are okay, safe, and comfortable throughout the scene. Um, it's so fun to see it come together, because whenever you see the final product, it looks
Mhm.
so horrendous. It looks terrifying. But then whenever you're in that moment, it's just like, oh, there's the cameraman there, there's the sound person there, there's the stunt person over there. It really helps you um kind of ground yourself
Yeah.
in that moment, which for those who are more into method acting, which I am not, but for
Mhm.
those that are, I imagine that has to be helpful. And just,
Yeah.
as a lifelong horror fan, so cool to see how we bring those scenes to life. Um,
Yeah.
so, so kind of going with Chucky a little bit, um, would you say, hmm, I, I'm going to go down a different rabbit hole with this,
Mhm.
just because this has been a question for the last year or so now. Who would win in a fight, Chucky or Megan?
Oh, see, that's tough. I Honestly, I'm gonna have to give that one to Megan. And the only reason is Chucky has been getting a little bit off his game the last few movies. I've absolutely loved the seasons. I
Mm,
really have. They've been absolutely brilliant. The last movie was so good. Call to Chucky, Curse of Chucky, big fan.
mm,
But he definitely gets his ass kicked quite a bit. But you got to
Yeah.
give it to him. Is I'd say yes, he would definitely lose in the fight, but he wouldn't stay down because he never
Hmm.
does. He always comes back no matter what. So I think that if he would lose by all means, but I don't think Megan would come back the same way Chucky would.
Hmm. Yeah. And it's curious because we're gonna kind of get an answer on that next year whenever we get Megan 2 or Megan 2.0. Um, which
Really?
yeah, it was it was shocking but not shocking that we were or whenever we got that announcement. Um,
Yeah.
I felt like that the ending was the ending. You know, it didn't
Hmm.
I did not at that point see, okay, well here's where a sequel could go.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm very curious to see what they do with it and how, like most people that I've talked to about it actually agree that Megan would win.
Hmm.
Um, so I'm curious to see like whenever we get Megan 2,
Yeah.
um, if anyone changes their minds or if more people hop on the Megan hype train.
Yeah.
Um, I thought that I thought that it was certainly a good take on that subgenre of horror to use AI,
Hmm.
which actually kind of brings me to a little bit of a segue. There's a new movie that has come out just recently called Afraid, which is similar to Megan in the fact that it's about an AI. It's not a robot though; it's like a home system. Have you seen anything about
Seen
that?
Smart House, like I kind of like get flashbacks to that like old Disney movie, like Smart House, where it's
Hmm.
like the house takes over with the AI.
Hmm.
But no,
It,
I have
it's
not heard of that.
oh, I haven't reviewed it yet on the podcast or even on just on Facebook, but it's no Megan. I It was a little disappointing. The ending especially. Everyone that has seen it that I've talked to has critically hated the ending. And
Mm,
it's one that apparently too could get a sequel. And it's like, how? Like, where can you go with it? So, kind of not to get too far off track, but going to sequels. Um, Another movie that has just come out that is a sequel is Joker 2. Um,
I've
have
heard
you?
mixed reviews, but I have not seen it.
Mm,
Yeah.
I will advocate for it.
Yeah.
It I understand why some people don't like it,
Mm,
but I would encourage anyone who does see it to go in with an open mind and try to understand that the story is about Arthur's mind,
yeah.
and that will definitely help things make more sense. Um, it's a wild ride. It's a very wild ride. Um, but kind of going to movies that have come out that we've seen, uh, what are some movies that you have seen recently?
So last night we watched The Yellow Brick Road, which
Hmm.
it started off so strong. It had such potential. Like, it was really well done. Production value was great. Acting was great. But the storyline just didn't get anywhere. It really reeled you
Hmm.
in. I was like, yes, where are they gonna go with this? And the movie just ended. I'm like, it went nowhere. Like just
Hmm.
nowhere. And it had such high potential of like, taking a dark twist of the Wizard of Oz, going down the Yellow Brick Road. What are you gonna find at the
Hmm.
end? Um, and like I was like, oh, and it just kind of reminded me that even movies with bigger budgets are just can be so disappointing. I was like,
Yeah.
no amount of budget is going to write an ending for you.
Hmm.
And like that's like I mean I think it was like 2 hours long and like me and my friend were just watching, we're like holding out hope. I'm like, okay, like this is a really good potential plot line of where they're going with this, and then it just ends and I'm like, okay.
Hmm.
So we watched that one and then we watched Mushrooms after, or it's called Shrooms.
Hmm.
And even that was the same issue. I was like, there's just like, they reel you in, but it doesn't go anywhere.
Hmm.
But one I do want to give a shout out to, and it was definitely like an indie movie, and it's called Live Scream. Really,
Yeah.
really good. Really well done. Definitely kind of takes like a modern twist on the live stream gamers of all the different
Hmm.
horror games everybody does with a bit of a really what I felt was like an original twist. I haven't really seen that kind of done. Live streamer
Hmm.
getting trapped with his followers in the game and like, if he dies in the game, one of his followers ends up dying. So
Ooh.
yeah.
Ooh, I have to look into that.
It's on Tubi. Highly, highly recommend
Hmm.
it. It was from a company that I never really heard of, but after watching that one, it is one that I would highly definitely look into. I feel like it was really well
Hmm.
done. It really kind of drew me in for sure. And like the storyline from start to finish was absolutely phenomenal. Like, I wasn't left being like, well, what happened? Like,
Hmm.
I really hate the no closers at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you there. I have not I have not heard of that, so I definitely have to look into that. And you said it's on Tubi?
Yeah, live scream. Highly recommend it.
Hmm.
And like I said, there, like, it felt like it was a lot of new actors. So like, kind of went into it being like, okay, I just watched this big budget movie and it was horrible. So,
Hmm.
this is gonna be, I've got high hopes for it and it was absolutely fantastic. Really well done.
Hmm.
And there's definitely quite a few good jump scares. So I was like, oh, it can't be that scary. Like I play these games all the time, but no, there's a few
Hmm.
times where I was like, okay, you got me.
Yeah, I think or rather I wish that people would give independent films more of a shot. Like I feel like that there are more consistent indie films, not just horror, but
Mhm.
across all genres. I feel like there's more consistent independent films than studio films nowadays. Like,
Oh,
um,
absolutely. There's so much
you
more
know,
heart to it, I feel.
there is, and I feel like a large part of it is because, as an indie filmmaker, I'm making movies that I want to make.
Hmm.
And, whenever you start dabbling with studio work, that kind of goes out the window. You're at the beck and call of the studio.
Yeah.
And I know that that is the goal for some people, and absolutely more power to them. But it's so fascinating to see an independent movie that is completely untouched by outside ideals. It is strictly from the mind of the creator. Um, e- Excellent example being the Terrifier films, which have
Yeah.
blown up. Have
Hmm.
you seen any of the Terrifier movies?
I've only seen the first one and it was quite some time ago. I keep meaning to doing a
Hmm.
big marathon because I know the new one just came out.
Yeah.
So like I know there's Terrifier, then there's All Hallows Eve, I guess, that are somehow
Hmm.
attached to that storyline. So I keep meaning
Yeah.
to do a big marathon with all of them because I've heard and seen such amazing things about it. Like
Yeah.
for
I mean,
slasher movies, it's up there.
it right now it's number one at the box office in the United States, and
I heard it beat out
um,
Joker.
it did.
Yeah.
And if you would have told me 5 years ago that an independent horror film would beat out Joker
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
box office,
Like no
like,
way. Like that nobody would believe that. Like that's so, good on them. Like that's mad impressive.
yeah, and I mean the same producers are making a ton of other content too. I mean, obviously Terrifier is what they're most well known for,
Yeah.
and for good reason because those movies are insane. But
Hmm.
they just put out another movie called Stream, which, for those who are unaware, is going to start streaming tomorrow. Um,
Oh.
it had a it had a limited theatrical run. It wasn't in a ton of screens, or sorry, in a ton of theaters, but I was lucky enough to see it on the final day it was showing in Indy, and it's such a fun movie. It's very much so like Terrifier, just without a killer clown.
Hmm.
Um, but that comes out tomorrow. I highly recommend it. Um, it's amazing, and we get Tim Curry back
Oh.
after 12 years, I think. So,
Wait, hold on. Wait. We get Tim Curry back?
yes, Tim Curry is in Stream.
That is all you had to say right there. That I wouldn't even care what kind of movie it is. Oh, good for him.
Hmm.
That is phenomenal. I know like he had a rough go with his health. So,
Yeah.
oh my God, I'm the biggest Tim Curry fan from Rocky Horror
Hmm.
to like, I absolutely adore Tim. Absolutely adore him. So good for him. And
He
that is
is one of
phenomenal.
Oh yeah, he's one of the absolute best actors that we have had in well ever. Like
Oh,
he is so
absolutely.
good.
Oh, like
Um,
absolutely phenomenal. The range on him from, Dr.
mhm,
Frankenfurter to the bellhop in Home Alone and even
mhm,
in Fern Gully, like, oh, yeah,
mhm.
Thornberries. Yeah, there's like, he's in everything if you really look back to your
Yeah.
childhood.
Oh yeah, I mean, Pennywise.
Yep.
My personal favorite being Clue. Like that that scene
Yeah,
where
Clue. I always forget about Clue.
he literally reenacts the entire movie in like 5 minutes. It's one of the best scenes in cinema history. He's
Yeah.
so funny.
And
Um,
you said that streams tomorrow?
yes, it'll be on Amazon Prime. It's one of those that I don't think it's going to be free streaming unless it's on
Mhm.
Screenbox, which I'm not sure. But I know it's going
Yeah.
to be on Amazon Prime. I believe Vudu, but I might be wrong. Vudu slash Fandango at Home, whatever they are currently calling themselves. But I cannot recommend it enough. I think because it had accidentally been put up on Amazon a few days ago, and I'm wanting to say it was
Oh,
like $20 to just straight up buy it, which is
yeah.
what you would pay for physical.
I
Um,
would, for Tim Curry, I'd pay it.
oh yeah, it's one of
It's
those
worth
that
it.
oh absolutely you'll buy the digital and the physical, which is what I do anyway. But
I have
um,
5 copies of Rocky Horror Picture Show around my room.
mhm,
Why? Because every time I see a copy, I'm like, I just need it, just in case
yeah,
one breaks. Like, it's just in
no,
case. I
exactly.
have the VHS, I have the Blu-ray, the DVD,
Hmm.
just in case. So,
That's how I am with certain movies, like Oppenheimer, which is, in my opinion, the best movie that has come out in my lifetime. Um, I that was the first one that I was like, okay, I'm getting, I'm getting the deluxe 4K, whatever I can
mhm.
get my hands on. And oh my goodness, let me tell you, it is such a stunning movie. If you haven't seen it,
I actually
if you're
haven't.
into,
I'll have to put that on the list.
ooh, it's yeah, if you're into war movies, you'll love it. It's of course about the his title is totally skipping my mind, but it's about, the person Oppenheimer as he is creating the nuclear bomb. And it shows like his whole process up until that first test. And oh, it's a slow burn. It is a slow burn, but it is so intense. Like especially it gets to the test, and whenever he realizes I just did something that could actually wipe out the Earth. Like it's can't praise the movie enough. Killian Murphy absolutely nailed it with
Yeah,
his
I know. I've
performance.
heard. I've heard the reviews are just like absolutely phenomenal on that one.
Mhm. Yeah, it absolutely deserves all the praise it gets. Plus, we get Josh Peck in a drama movie, which I grew up watching Drake and Josh. So whenever he
Oh
came on
yeah,
screen, I was like, I didn't expect it.
yeah.
There's so many cameos. Um, even Devin Bostic, who plays Roderick in the Diary of a Wimpy Kid movies, um,
Oh.
he's in it. There are so many cameos. But kind of going back to horror because the timer is counting down now. It is showing that we have just under 7 minutes. Um, what are some of your favorite horror movies?
My favorite horror movies, and like going right back that I will have to watch every few years, it's like tradition, is absolutely
Hmm.
Scream. I have to have a Scream marathon every year around Halloween. It's the first
Hmm.
horror movie I ever watched. And it terrified me. It absolutely
Yeah.
terrified me. Now I watch it and it's like a comfort movie. But and
Yeah.
then the first one that really terrified me was the 13 Ghosts, and that I watch
Yeah.
every year. Matthew Lillard, he went so hard in that movie, absolutely
Hmm.
killed it. And I think that maybe just made such an impact on me as such a young kid. That's
Hmm.
where my love of horror went from. Like, I just was fascinated. And I think it was like from a
Hmm.
production value that I was fascinated with all the ghosts in the basement, seeing like, the effects that they had for each ghost, not only just like the makeup effects, but the visual and special effects. I think that was one of the first like horror movies that really captivated me on effects. And I
Hmm.
was just like, that's so cool. Like, how did they do that? And how is that done? And I think that was one that like mesmerized, I can't talk today. It captivated me from a very young age. But it
Hmm.
wasn't because of like the horror value. I mean, I was scared crapless, like absolutely. But I just remember being like, that was such a cool movie, but it was just so much more than that.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
one of the first movies, I can't remember exactly the order, but I very distinctly remember Scream 3. That fight between Sydney and Roman,
Yeah.
um, like after his reveal. I remember that so well. I remember Scream 4, whenever um, uh, Jill was just going absolutely psycho. Um, that stuck with me.
Yeah.
Now, 13 Ghosts, that's another one that you mentioned that we kind of have in common. But for me,
Mm.
even though I later saw the remake with Matthew Lillard, for me
Mhm.
it was the original because my mom would like
Oh,
play all the old ones, and oh
yeah.
my God, like
Yeah.
it was one of those that like it did captivate me. Like,
Mm.
how are they doing this effect, especially, because that came out back in the 60s, I think.
Oh,
Um,
yeah. I would love to
and
see it. I've never seen the original, but I would love to
mhm.
just to see the effects, like the OG effects about it.
Oh yeah,
Mm.
it's really good. It scared me. Like it,
Yeah.
I remember being terrified. There's a scene where one of the characters gets crushed by it's like two beds that are stacked and they're on the bottom
Mm.
one,
Yeah.
and the top bed like sinks down and crushes them. And I was like, ooh, like it was creepy.
Yeah, in the Matthew Lillard one, they get cut in half. The lawyer gets cut in half, and
Hmm.
he's just walking by. They're like, "Is that half the lawyer?" That terrified me of those automatic doors.
Yeah.
For way too long, I had an irrational fear of going through them because like they just chopped the lawyer right in half, and I was
Hmm.
like, I would always like scoot really quick through them. Okay, that's the
Hmm.
irrational fear from those movies.
Oh yeah. I still hate driving over bridges because of Final Destination.
Yeah, oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so we have 3 minutes, so I'm going to close with one final question. If
Okay.
you could be in one horror movie, that's already established, franchise, what movie would that be, and what would your role be? Would you be a protagonist? Would you be the killer?
Like I said, it would probably have to definitely be a Chucky role. I mean, and I would definitely want to be that side character that goes off in the most dramatic way. Like,
Hmm.
just like the biggest, goriest, bloodiest death, and it would have to be at the hands of Chucky. Like that would just,
Hmm.
I think that's like my ultimate dream is, I told my dad this before and he goes, we should probably look into that. I'm like, no, Dad, that would be like, that's my goal.
Hmm. Well,
But I
it's
don't know.
mhm. um Chucky, like I didn't get into Child's Play until much later. With
Mhm.
the ironically the remake back in what was it, 2017?
Oh, the
Um,
buddy one or
it has Audrey Plaza in it.
yeah, it
Aubrey
wasn't
Plaza.
yeah, it was all right. I wouldn't like it was definitely an AI kind of Chucky. It was
Hmm.
different, but I was like it wasn't it wasn't my favorite one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got into the other ones. Now I remember like seeing, I think it was Bride of Chucky whenever I was a kid, but
Mhm.
I didn't remember that I'd seen it until I
Yeah.
started rewatching them.
Oh yeah.
But but Stephanie, thank you so much for taking the time to do this recording with me tonight. And before we hop off, where can the viewers find you on the socials?
I'm Elevated Wander on Instagram, Facebook. That's pretty much all I have is just those two right now. But definitely I'm always hanging around anything RG related, reality games, Instagram,
Mhm.
as well. Like I do run that one as well. So yeah, those are pretty much my main hotspots.
All right. Well, thank you again for joining me, and thank you to everyone who has tuned in and watched and or listened. And we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thanks so much.